truth is simple. She dodged tax. She lied about it. Her position was untenable for days. Keir Starmer once promised honesty and integrity in politics, but when faced with this test, he hesitated. No principles, no back.
From the party of stability to causing earthquakes, from the party of business to a slapdown from the IMF.
The Red Queen's return, Angela Rayner's political resurrection. Right, before we dive into this political thriller that's been unfolding right under our noses, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change how you view the current state of British politics, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Did you honestly think you'd seen the last of Angela Rayner? Because if you did, you've got another thing coming. While the Westminster bubble has been quietly celebrating her apparent downfall, they made a catastrophic miscalculation. The Deputy Prime Minister hasn't been destroyed. She's been forged in fire, and when she emerges from this political wilderness, she'll be more dangerous than ever before. Let's rewind to where the saga truly begins. The stamp duty scandal that supposedly ended Rayner's career wasn't just about £40,000 in unpaid taxes on her £800,000 beach apartment in Hove. No, this was about something far more sinister, the systematic dismantling of the one politician who represented authentic working-class Britain in a party that's increasingly forgotten its roots. The irony is delicious, isn't it? A politician who'd spent years advocating for higher taxes on the wealthy gets caught underpaying her own dues. But here's what the establishment miss entirely. Her supporters don't care about the hypocrisy. They care about the vendetta. The cover-up that followed was textbook political incompetence, but it revealed something far more significant. When Rayner's representative initially claimed she'd paid the correct duty and dismissed any suggestion otherwise as entirely without basis, they weren't just lying, they were buying time. Time to craft a narrative, time to rally support, and most importantly, time to identify exactly who was orchestrating her downfall. Because make no mistake, this wasn't random scrutiny. This was a calculated political assassination attempt. And here's where Keir Starmer made his fatal error. By jumping to her defense before knowing the full truth, he didn't just tie his credibility to Hayes. He inadvertently positioned himself as either complicit or incompetent. When the truth eventually emerged and Rayner was forced to seek that second legal opinion in silence, Starmer looked like exactly what he is, a manager out of his depth, clinging to process when he should have been mastering politics. But here's what every political commentator has missed in their rush to write Rayner's political obituary. Labour supporters still absolutely adore her. Not despite her flaws, but because of them. While Starmer represents everything voters have grown to despise about modern politicians, the calculated responses, the risk-averse positioning, the complete absence of genuine passion, Rayner embodies something increasingly rare in British politics: authenticity. Her backstory isn't just compelling. It's revolutionary in a party that's forgotten what revolution looks like. Growing up in poverty, teenage motherhood, working as a care worker, rising through union ranks while managing a complicated relationship and raising a child with disabilities. This isn't political positioning. This is lived experience that millions of Britons recognize as their own story. She didn't just climb the social mobility ladder. She dragged it behind her for others to follow. Now, if you're finding this analysis as gripping as I am, smash that subscribe button because we're about to get to the really juicy bit. And trust me, you won't see this perspective anywhere else. The Observer's headline Rayner had pure class. Our class wasn't just newspaper hyperbole. It was a declaration of war. When they put her face on the front page with those words, they were drawing battle lines that extend far beyond Westminster's corridors. They were claiming her as the authentic voice of working Britain against the suited grey men who've colonized the Labour Party. Her critics mocked the vaping, the tattoos, the unfiltered language that saw her brand Tories as scum. They see these as character flaws, evidence of unsuitability for high office. But her supporters see something entirely different. They see someone who hasn't been sanitized by the Westminster machine, someone who still speaks their language, someone who gets angry about the same things they do. In an era of focus group politicians delivering pre-approved soundbites, Rayner's unfiltered fury feels like a revelation. And here's a political dynamite that nobody wants to acknowledge. When Reform UK party members were filmed celebrating her resignation, they weren't just revealing their own vindictiveness. They were gift-wrapping the perfect narrative for her comeback. Nothing energizes a Labour base quite like seeing their champion being celebrated by the far right. Every cheer from Reform supporters becomes another vote for Rayner's eventual return. The contrast with the rest of Labour's front bench couldn't be more stark. While Red Angie blazes with colour and controversy, her colleagues deliver politics in monochrome. They speak in the language of technocracy when the country is crying out for passion. They offer management when people are demanding transformation. Rayner possesses something that no other prominent Labour figure has managed to cultivate: the ability to make politics feel personal, immediate, and urgent. This is why her story is far from over. In fact, it's barely begun. She will return, and when she does, she'll be carrying the grievances of everyone who felt abandoned by Starmer's rightward drift. She'll represent not just her own political resurrection, but the resurrection of Labour's soul. The relationship between Starmer and Rayner was always destined for conflict, and that conflict reveals everything you need to know about Labour's internal struggles. After the Hartlepool by-election disaster in 2021, when Starmer attempted to sideline her, her threat of a leadership challenge forced him into retreat. That moment established a power dynamic that still defines their relationship. Starmer might hold the title, but Rayner commands loyalty that he can only dream of. The characteristics that infuriate Rayner about Starmer, his pathological caution, his managerial coldness, his systematic abandonment of everything Labour once stood for, these aren't just personal grievances. They are the same frustrations burning through Labour's grassroots, the same anger simmering among backbench MPs who've watched their party transform into something unrecognizable. And speaking of that transformation, make sure you're subscribed, because Starmer's current policy revolution deserves its own deep dive, and the implications are staggering. Starmer's recent team reorganization and policy overhaul represents the most dramatic rightward shift in Labour's modern history. His new priorities, slashing welfare eligibility, ramping up immigration enforcement, maintaining fiscal conservatism to appease financial markets, these aren't just policy positions. They're declarations of war against everything Labour's base believes in. Every welfare cut will be seen as a betrayal. Every immigration crackdown will be viewed as capitulation to the far right. Every budget constraint will be interpreted as abandoning the transformative change that brought people to Labour in the first place. This creates a perfect storm for Rayner's return. As Starmer implements increasingly unpopular policies, as Labour activists grow more restless, as backbench MPs start questioning whether they recognize their own party anymore, there will be a natural rallying point for their discontent. The Red Queen won't just be returning. She'll be returning as a leader of a resistance movement within her own party. The historical parallels are impossible to ignore. Peter Mandelson, Labour's own Prince of Darkness, survived financial scandals that should have ended careers, precisely because he understood that political survival isn't about moral purity, it's about indispensability. Rayner's situation is even more advantageous because a scandal reinforces rather than contradicts a political brand. Her supporters don't see a hypocrite. They see someone who got caught in the same trap that the system sets for all working-class people who dare to succeed. But here's where this story becomes truly dangerous for Starmer. If he can't control his divided party, if he can't sell his tough choices to a base that never asked for them, then Labour risks the kind of internal warfare that destroys governments before they've properly begun. And hovering over all of this chaos will be that natural red-haired leader waiting in the wings, building alliances, collecting grievances, preparing for the moment when Starmer's coalition finally fractures. The timeline for Rayner's return might be shorter than anyone anticipates, and certainly shorter than Starmer hopes. Political memories in Westminster are notoriously brief, but political grudges last forever. Every day Starmer moves further right, every policy that alienates Labour's base, every managerial decision that prioritizes process over passion, all of this builds a case for Rayner's eventual rehabilitation. She won't return as the same politician who left. Political wilderness changes people, and Rayner's exile will have taught her lessons that will make her more formidable than ever. She'll have learned who her real allies are, who can be trusted when the stakes are highest, and most importantly, she'll have learned exactly how the Westminster establishment operates when it wants to destroy someone. The revenge, when it comes, will be systematic and devastating. Not the theatrical revenge of political drama, but the cold, calculated revenge of someone who understands that power isn't taken. It's built coalition by coalition, grievance by grievance, until the moment arrives when resistance becomes impossible. Make sure you subscribe, because this story is just beginning, and the implications extend far beyond one politician's career. We're watching the potential transformation of British politics in real time. This isn't just about Angela Rayner's personal comeback. This is about whether the Labour Party can survive the tension between its establishment leadership and its working-class soul. It's about whether authenticity still matters in politics, whether passion can triumph over process, whether someone who speaks the language of ordinary people can still find a path to power in modern Britain. The establishment wrote off Angela Rayner too early, and that mistake might reshape British politics for the next decade. She's not just coming back. She's coming back stronger, angrier, and more dangerous than ever before. The Red Queen's return isn't just political resurrection. It's political revolution waiting to happen. The only question now is whether Keir Starmer has the political intelligence to recognize the storm that's building around him, or whether he'll be swept away by the very forces he thought he'd successfully suppressed. Either way, British politics is about to become far more interesting than anyone currently realizes. Subscribe to UK Connors now, because this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens when the Red Queen finally makes her move. The Game of Thrones is nothing on what's about to unfold in Westminster, and we'll be here to decode every twist, every alliance, and every betrayal as British politics enters its most dangerous phase in decades.